Hello, everyone. Today we are taking a deep dive into this Wall Street Journal story. University of California professors are begging schools to reinstate the SAT. We are going to break down exactly what happened here and what it really means for students, universities, and the future of America's workforce. We are going to break down exactly what happened here and what the real risks are that every investor should know about. But before that, you are watching Decode Daily News, where we take the biggest business and finance stories and decode them so anyone can understand. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. So let us get into it. More than 1,100 University of California math and science professors are urging UC regents to reinstate college entrance exams. So that line really caught my attention. And here is why: over 1,000 professors. Not a handful of frustrated teachers, more than 1,000. When that many people inside the same system sign the same letter, something has been quietly building for a very long time. And they did not send this to a committee. They went straight to the top. Let us see what is written ahead in this same news paragraph, arguing that unprepared students are lowering academic standards and draining teaching resources. Now sit with that for a second. Draining resources. That phrase is doing a lot of work. Universities run on budgets just like any business. When professors spend time reteaching material from years earlier, instead of moving the curriculum forward, that is money, time, and talent being pulled in the wrong direction. And that cost lands somewhere. Now this is the part I could not move past. Nearly 1/3 of students taking first semester calculus at UC Berkeley. And that part is worth sitting with 1/3. At Berkeley, one of the most respected public universities in the entire country. We are not talking about a school that is struggling. This is a flagship institution, and 1 in 3 students walking into calculus are simply not ready for it. And then came the number that changed everything, displayed severe preparation deficits, the letter said. Pause right there. Severe. That one word is carrying the entire argument. Not minor gaps, not small adjustments needed. Severe deficits. And when you put that word next to Berkeley, it tells you this problem has been growing quietly for years before anyone said anything out loud. Here is the piece that reframes everything we now observe: preparation gaps so severe that instructors must reteach middle school mathematics. And here is what that really tells you: middle school mathematics. At a university, these professors are standing in front of students who are supposed to be learning advanced material, and they are starting from a point that should have been covered years earlier. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is a fundamental mismatch between what the university expects and what students are actually arriving with. And that is only half the story. While simultaneously teaching the material students need for sciences, engineering, economics, and other quantitatively demanding fields, now let that sink in simultaneously. They are being asked to do 2 jobs at once: catch students up on years of missed foundation, while also delivering the advanced curriculum those same students enrolled to learn. No budget, no schedule, and no professor can sustain that indefinitely. Something has to give. But that was just the beginning. UC has finite resources and can help only so many students. And that is not a small thing. That line is the quiet alarm inside this entire letter. Finite resources. Every hour spent on remediation is an hour not spent on advanced teaching. Every dollar used to support underprepared students is a dollar not invested elsewhere. The professors are not being harsh. They are describing a real constraint that any institution eventually hits. And the reason behind it tells you even more: the number of students placed in classes to remediate elementary and middle school math before they could take pre-calculus now. Sit with that for a second. A separate faculty report from a different campus inside the same system. That means this is not one professor complaining about one class. This is a pattern showing up across multiple institutions, and someone took the time to document it formally, which means it had already been visible long enough to study. And then came the number that changed everything: increased to 8.5% from 0.5% between 2020 and 2025. Pause right there. That is a 17 times increase. From 0.5% to nearly 9% in 5 years. These are university students being placed below pre-calculus, below material, covered before high school ends. The system absorbed this quietly year after year. Now the professors are saying they cannot absorb it anymore. So that line really caught my attention, and here is why critics have long argued that college entrance tests, such as the SAT and ACT, limit opportunity for Black, Hispanic, and poor students. And here is what that really tells you. This is the heart of the debate. And it is a real tension, not a manufactured one. There is genuine research showing that test scores correlate with family income. Students from wealthier backgrounds have more access to preparation and resources. So when schools dropped the requirement, many genuinely believed they were opening doors that had long been closed. And that is only half the story. More than 90% of schools don't mandate the exams, Fetter said. And think about what that actually means. 9 out of 10 schools. That is how far the shift went. This was not a quiet change. It was a near-complete transformation of how universities evaluated applicants, driven by good intentions, and now being re-examined as the data starts coming in. Now this is the part I could not move past. The University of California stopped requiring an ACT or SAT score in 2020. And that part is worth sitting with. 2020 was a turning point. The pandemic forced fast decisions. Testing centers were closed. Schools went test optional out of necessity. But necessity became policy. And policy became the new normal even after the emergency passed. That is how a temporary fix becomes a permanent shift without anyone fully deciding that it should. And then came the response that says it all. At the time, some faculty warned the move would make it harder to assess applicants, especially alongside rampant high school grade inflation. Now let that sink in. Some faculty warned about this at the time. The concern was raised. And then it was set aside. And now several years later, those same concerns are showing up not as predictions, but as data, as real numbers in real classrooms. Here is the piece that reframes everything. Yale University followed suit last week. Yale went test optional in 2020, and here is what that really tells you, Yale, one of the most well-known universities in the world. They made the same move that nearly every other school made, dropped the requirement, opened the doors wider, and then looked at what happened next. And that brings us to the part at the center of this whole story. Then 4 years later, mandated students submit a score from the SAT, ACT, International Baccalaureate, or Advanced Placement exams. And that is not a small thing. 4 years later, they reversed course completely. And the reason institutions like Yale, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Dartmouth are coming back to testing is not simply about raising a barrier. It is about getting a clearer picture of who is ready and who needs more support before they arrive. That is a very different conversation than the one that started this whole debate. So, that is exactly where my take comes in, but real quick, before I give you my take, this video is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research. So here is what this story is really about beneath the surface. California's tech economy runs on science, technology, engineering, and math talent. The professors said it themselves, this is not just a classroom problem. It is a workforce pipeline problem. And pipelines take years to fix once they start showing cracks. You do not feel it immediately. You feel it years later when the hiring pool looks different and nobody can quite explain why. The companies hiring from these universities in tech, biotech, and engineering, they feel this before any headline does. When the talent coming out is less prepared, companies spend more on internal training, productivity takes longer to build, and hiring decisions start shifting. These are slow-moving consequences, but they are real ones. What is worth noting is that the University of California is now one of the last major holdouts. Massachusetts Institute of Technology brought back testing. Dartmouth brought it back. Yale brought it back. In every case, the reasoning was similar, not to raise a barrier, but to get a clearer and more honest picture of student readiness. The University of California is being asked to have that same conversation by more than 1,000 of its own professors. The real question is how long it takes for policy to catch up with what professors are already seeing every single day. Because by the time it shows up in graduation rates and workforce data, a great deal of time will already have passed. And the cost of waiting is not abstract. It is measured in students who struggle, in professors who are stretched thin, and in a pipeline that quietly gets weaker year after year. If you found this breakdown useful, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a Decode. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think standardized tests like the SAT should come back? Or is there a better way to measure whether a student is truly ready for university-level work? Drop your answer below. I read every single one.